If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, but let's get right to it. I watched El Camino, the Breaking Bad secret movie that was shot and released on Netflix as a Netflix exclusive movie. And I have to say, this movie was hyped a lot. Aaron Paul was doing these teases on his Twitter, and there were these pictures being leaked and all this kind of stuff, and I have to say that, like, it was really, really hyped up. And I loved Breaking Bad. I binge watched all 6 seasons in like a 2.5 week period. This is a movie that we wanted, but now that we've got it, the big question for me is, did we need it? Okay, and from a storytelling perspective, in the last episode of Breaking Bad, it was pretty cut and dry. You know, Walt, collapsed. He had that POV shot where it kept getting blurry, and he finally, like you thought, he killed over and died. It was kind of left a little ambiguous. You didn't know if he died or not. But then Jesse Pinkman, blasted out of there after he'd been freed from the, what happened. The guns came out. They shot up the whole drug dealers, the military, grade weaponry, the whole 9 yards, and Jesse Pinkman got away. And I was happy with him just, screaming and holding onto the steering wheel and just like, oh my God, he survived. Like, whew, it was like such a burden off of like knowing that Walt sacrificed everything to do right by this one guy that did right by him. Okay, then flash forward all these years later, we get El Camino, which, don't get me wrong, I used to own a 1982 Chevy El Camino. It looked very similar to the one in this, except mine was white and blue, where this one was black and like an orangish red. I loved how the movie opened. The one thing about this movie is there wasn't a lot of dialogue. I'll have to say it was shot beautifully. The cinematography was great. Some of the shots were just fantastic, like that blueprint grid overhead shot of Jesse. There's going to be spoilers in this. The movie's been out for a week already, and I'm going to talk about the movie, so there are spoilers. But this overhead grid shot where Jesse Pinkman's busting up all the walls, kind of doing, remember, Walt had hid all the money in the walls at his house in the series. And so his first thinking was just to destroy all the walls, and you see him, and you see like lots of little Jesse Pinkmans in time lapse just destroying the house. Beautiful, beautiful shot. A lot of the shots look like, Albuquerque, New Mexico, like a shot in the beginning where Jesse was talking to, I guess it was Mike, by the water, and they were rack focused out, and the stream was in focus, and they were off, standing there, and it opened at a point in time where it was like a flashback, because that's when, it wasn't too long after that conversation that Mike was killed. I believe that right there by Walt, sitting in the chair or whatever, and so like there was a lot of flashbacks in the movie. And that's fine because it helped fill in holes, like all the captivity stuff with Jesse, being captive. So yeah, the flashbacks, and when Jesse, finally collected all the money, and he goes to see Robert Forster, who was the guy with the back in the series and stuff. And then, as a side note, the next day after I watched this, the news broke that Robert Forster had passed away. And I've really enjoyed Robert Forster in all of his films going way back, and I had no idea that he had brain cancer, and that's what took him. I mean, my dad had a brain tumor, and that was what partially killed him. Was he had melanoma that spread to his brain and had a brain tumor and died. So like right away I was like, oh my God, like I just watched El Camino the night before, and then news breaks that Robert Forster is dead, and I was like, wow, what a happenstance kind of thing, where he goes out on such a bang, where the world, because Breaking Bad was such a huge show, the world was tuning in to El Camino, and then to see him and then he passed away. It was just a weird, surreal moment the next morning when that news broke. But anyway, seeing that, Jesse Pinkman finally, he gets a new identity and he gets to start his life over in Alaska. I don't know if I needed this movie. Like, that's the thing. Like, I wanted it so bad. But the only thing we got was a flashback with Bryan Cranston, with Aaron Paul in a booth. Flashback to like when they were first cooking, because the Winnebago was out there with the bullet holes in it, but they had put duct tape on the bullet holes. And there's this kind of thing where, Bryan Cranston, Walt's character saying, what are you going to do with your life? What do you want to do with your life? And he just really didn't have an answer for him. And then, and I'll have to say, it was great seeing those two together in a fresh new scene. But it would have been nice if he would have been alive. I mean, that's really what the fans wanted. But you heard early on in the movie that there was a radio. They were listening to the radio on the news and all this other kind of stuff about what had happened, and that there was a gun battle that went on, and that they said the school teacher was found dead on the scene. And I was like, so he really was dead. So he died. He collapsed. He died. And so they really just, like in the beginning of the movie, just kind of put that out there to let you know, don't expect Bryan Cranston, don't expect Walt to be back. And that's really what people wanted. They wanted that team. So we got the one scene in the diner, in the booth. But I have to say, it's obvious Bryan Cranston didn't shave his head for it, and they put a bald cap on him. But I do have to say, it was one of the best special effect bald heads I've ever seen in my life. But there was one shot of Bryan Cranston from, it was an over the shoulder looking at him, and the sunlight was just glaring on him enough that you saw the outline on his forehead of the bald cap. But it was a bald cap that had the stubble on it, that looked so real. I mean, I was very impressed. And for somebody, I know a lot of friends that work in special effects in the film industry, and to see this bald cap was really a step up. It looked silicone. It looked fantastic. But the movie left me going, like I said, did we really need this movie? I mean, like, we had closure with Jesse at the end of the last episode. He escaped, he got away, and it was left up to the imagination to know that he was going to be safe and he got away. All right? But then to see all this stuff and the flashbacks up until okay, well, now he's safe in Alaska, starting a new life over. Again, this is the movie we all wanted. We wanted a Breaking Bad feature film. But did we need this movie? I don't think so. I think we just needed to leave the show where it was at. I don't think this took the show to another level. I think if we'd have found out that Heisenberg Walt was in the hospital on life support and his cancer went in remission and these guys got back together, I mean, that's what everybody wanted, okay? And that didn't happen, and that's fine. Terry Gilliam did a fantastic job with this movie from a directing standpoint. Everything was beautiful. The three-way gun battle at the welding place and I didn't even see it coming when they were going to do the draw, and I knew he had the two guns from the safe, Jesse Pinkman, but I didn't realize he had one in the pocket. So when you thought he was reaching for the other and he just pulled the trigger on the other and nailed that guy ahead of time, that's a big spoiler, but it was fantastic. All the actors that came back from the original series, and there was a lot of little spoiler or Easter eggs throughout, but again, I don't know. I loved it, but I didn't think we needed it. So what did you guys think of El Camino? Let's talk about it in the comments section, and we'll see you on the next one.